Listen up, Rangers. Welcome to the Geek Chest. My name's Steve, and finally, we get the Evangelion movie. It is currently available on Amazon Prime if you guys would like to watch it. Link in the description below. It's an affiliate link. Just wink, wink. But anyways, the film we are going to be discussing is the aforementioned Neon Genesis Evangelion. I can't talk today. Neon Genesis Evangelion 3.0 plus 1.0 Thrice Upon a Time, which is the conclusion to the Evangelion films. At least the new ones. Got a little Eva on the shelf. I forgot I had one down here. So to be symbolic for this video, I figure kind of needed some representation on the giant wall that is like tokusatsu and stuff behind me currently. With some turtles. You can sort of see the turtles. They're mainly over that way. But for this review, I'm not going to get into spoilers. We're not going to really get into the story too much. Might do another video for this just in terms of spoilers, like just talking about everything that happens in the film. That one, I would definitely be more inclined to actually put anime footage and stuff into it, because since we'd be talking about scene-specific stuff, I'll be definitely wanting to do more editing in that one. So depending on how well this does, we might do a spoiler one. But anyways, first and foremost, usually like a lot of the big stuff for me in terms of how much I'm going to really enjoy an anime and watchability is the animation and art style, which I will say for this, it is 2.5 hours of gorgeous. Like the cinematography is really great. The animation's super fluid. Like if you like the other Evangelion films, it definitely is akin to those, and the style really reminds me a lot of the anime, which is a huge selling point, because that was one of the things outside of like Toonami stuff that really got me into hardcore anime watching was the original Evangelion series. Just watching like the fight scenes, the mechs, and the overall visuals just really got me engaged into wanting to go check out other animes and seeing just like how much the universe can diverge from this one? Big words aren't my strong suit. Anyways, but you maybe want to go check out other animes to see what else is out there, because this was definitely kind of similar to what I remember from the Toonami shows, but definitely gets a lot deeper. And I think this ended up on Toonami anyways at some point, if I remember it. And I didn't even really mind that like the Evas are pretty much, for the majority of the anime, CG rendered. Because sometimes it could definitely turn me off when watching this stuff when it's not done correctly. Berserk and the Godzilla anime are probably the biggest offenders for me. While there's definitely been a lot more animes as of recent where I almost prefer it being CG. And this almost got there. Because I think the problem is they did, because towards the end there's a lot more Eva fighting. And there's parts where it's CG, and then there's the actual, like, more traditional looking animation. I know it's all computer, but it still looks more akin to how it was in the anime. And that got me like, why couldn't, I just want that. Like, give me more of that. Granted, the CG stuff's sweet, but give me more of that. It'd be awesome. But most of the rest of the anime is just amazing. The colors, the visuals, and even a lot of the placements and shots definitely remind me, again, of the anime, the way that they set up scenes and just overall like placement of shots really helps to kind of bring me back to one of the reasons why I really love Evangelion to begin with. And the Eva designs were great in the anime, where you had Unit 8, which is the pink one, goes through a couple of different variations throughout the movie, and each iteration, I think, kind of built upon the coolness. I still really like the construction. Like, I wish we got to see a little bit more of that. Unit 2 gets to make a comeback in this and looks a lot different. And there's stuff that happens that is cool. And there's stuff that happens in this anime that really makes me want more action figures of stuff that also happens in the anime that we're not going to discuss. But just, lo and behold, Unit 2 is in the anime. There's a lot of Evas in this. Because you get, the figures already came out, so I don't think it's spoiling, but Unit 1 is in the movie. Of course he is, it's the final one. Unit 13 is back in this one, plus there's some more new iterations. It's hard to talk about, but there's just more Evas. There's even, like, let's just say that there's surprise Eva things that they fight in this. And it's weird, but kind of cool in its own little regards. Overall, for the story, I think it works for me. It's Eva. It's a lot of nonsense and gonna have to rewatch it a few times in order to really like get the story beats down because it throws a lot at you. And I mean a lot. Not as much as like the original anime where you're just like, what the hell was this in the circle of friendships and thank yous? Or even The Death of Evangelion, which I still thought was a nice conclusion to it, even though it's a little bit forced because of the way the anime ended. But I still think it was, it helps to tie the story together a little bit while still being vague enough. This one also still kind of falls into that same category where it concludes the story, but still a little bit vague on the ending. And then just, of course, weird stuff's just gotta happen. But I think it does a nice enough job for the majority of the characters to where I feel like I'm satisfied with the way things ended. One character in particular, I feel like they could have did a little bit better. And even Shinji's overall arc in this anime, I think maybe could have been sped up a little bit. It's weird because I say sped up, but for the most part, like the beginning of this anime, like the first hour actually kind of drags, and then where the story starts kind of picking up, it picks up quick, and I feel like there could have been a little bit more time in the first hour into overall building up of Shinji's end arc than what they did, because it goes from like 0 to 100 pretty quick. But I still think it does overall for the story, doing a good job of keeping you engaged, and there's nothing that's that obtruse, at least for Evangelion films, if you guys kind of know what I mean. They do kind of throw some things out of the blue in this movie, just to kind of keep you on your toes, I feel like. And there's a couple of nods and winks to some other things, and even just some other shows and animations in general. But I had a fun time watching it. I watched the dubbed, which I really enjoyed because, again, growing up with it as a kid, I watched the dubbed, and it has a lot of the same voice actors are back for this one. So it definitely helps with the nostalgia factor. And then I still think they do a really good job with this. And I do need to sit down and watch the Japanese. But for me, it's kind of like Dragon Ball Z, where I have a really hard time watching the Japanese just because I've got the dub so ingrained in my brain, where just hearing the characters' voices in just such a drastically different tone is almost kind of jarring. Ava's not as bad. For me anyways. Like, I can kind of watch both of them, but dubbed, I personally prefer, which is nice that they have that over on Amazon. One thing I will say, though, there is a crap ton of nudity in this. Well, nudity between the pilots, which I almost come to expect, but, like, Asuka kind of, like, she just flaunts it. Like, you go, girl. But, anyways, I like, too, that, like, if you guys haven't seen the previous one, but the pilots don't age, which I think is kind of funny, so it makes all of them sort of legal, in a sense. I know that's probably not what they were going for, but I don't know, it's just always something like, it's another, to me, it works for the plot, but it's one of those like plot devices that always just sound like something to make it more sellable to men. As bad as it kind of sounds. Well, overall, would I recommend this? I definitely would, especially if you guys are into Evangelion. Personally, I like it better than the previous movie. Maybe not the first two, but definitely the third one. Because again, this one, the beginning, while I find engaging, I feel over multiple rewatchings, kind of diminishes its return. Because a lot of it's going to be sort of like that shock value. And again, it's a lot of world building, which I was discussing this kind of with my buddy Aaron. Because one of my favorite kaiju movies of all time, Pacific Rim. He was watching it too. He liked it, but he's like, yeah, you know what? Like, after rewatching this, I don't really enjoy it as much because for the most part, like the monster fights are cool, but a lot of like the world building aspects, and it's got a lot of chit chat because it's got to build up everything going on because it takes place on Earth, but the scenario is nothing like that takes place on Earth, which I think hurts that a bit. It's kind of the same way. Same thing that happens here is there's a lot of world building. They have to explain the events that happened from the previous one and kind of what's been going on. And watching that again and again might not engage as many people, but definitely the later half of the movie would, though. As I will say, I was definitely looking at my watch a little bit more, and that's when I realized that this movie was 2.5 hours long. Was during that initial build-up time to get to that. Like how I feel... 2014 is a really good giant monster movie because it's so grounded in realism. It doesn't have to really spend time world building. You just got to explain kind of just why the monsters are here and what the monsters are doing, which rewatching it again and again, I think is a lot more digestible than something that's just telling you, like, literally, like, narrating a story at this point. This isn't for somebody that hasn't seen Evangelion. While, granted, it does do kind of a prenup at the beginning to kind of catch you up if you haven't checked out the previous movies recently, which thankfully they did for me, because I haven't watched the third one in God knows how long. Pretty much since it released. I think I watched it twice when it came out, and that was about it. And probably the same with this one. I'll probably watch it again sometime, and I'll definitely have to pick it up. But if you haven't seen the previous movies, I would skip this one and go with those. If you've only seen the anime, no, make sure to check out the movies before you check out this one. And if you haven't liked Evangelion, this definitely isn't going to sway you. Since this is kind of the conclusion to Evangelion, which I'm perfectly fine with. I know there's talks of there being another one, which gotta hope there's not a continuation of this. I think the way it ended, not to my taste, but I think works fine. It's just odd because the way the ending plays out and then what happens kind of was just like, eh? But okie dokie, I guess. Personally, I'd like to see them go into kind of different concepts with the show. Sort of akin to like, I think it's Angelic Days is what the manga's called. It's more of a slice of life school anime, more so than built around like giant mech biblical anime, where it definitely spends a lot more time building up the relationships between all the characters than spending time explaining really what's going on with the world. And I think that'd be kind of a nice, like, interesting take. Plus, for people that are more looking for, like, who's Shinji gonna end up with? Something like that could give you multiple scenarios or a different take, because the movies definitely kind of lean them towards one way. The anime, never really did lean them towards anyways. But you could kind of play with that a little bit more. And to be honest, it'd be kind of nice to see this kind of same situation done in a little bit more of like a lighthearted scenario than Apocalypse all the time. But anyways, that's pretty much it for this video. So help us defeat those kaiju by hitting that like button, subscribe, become a ranger today. We also got Instagram, Patreon, Pinterest, Facebook, guys. Like, keep up to date with the channel and donate. We greatly appreciate it. And see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.